name is Beth Hiley here for Board Game Geek in collaboration with Comic-Con at Home, and I'm being joined by Chad Elkins from 25th Century Games. Hello again.
Hello, good to see you again. It's been a little
And
bit, but
I
glad to be
say
here.
again, yeah, I say again because you and I were on camera together just about a year and a bit ago. In fact, talking about the
Right.
same game.
We were, that's right. Yeah, we actually did talk about it when it was
We
in
did.
prototype form at Origins,
And
I
you
think,
had
where we were.
And you had just finished your Kickstarter, so I'm delighted to see that it is now ready for full retail. And you honestly had me in your first interview with, "This is a filler rondel game." I said, "Sold."
Well, the good news is it's still a filler Rondell game, so that's
Excellent.
positive. But yeah, and actually, it really kind of looks a lot different than I think when you probably saw it. I think in prototype form before the Kickstarter, we had a different logo on it. A lot of the components were a little different. We had cards
Different
instead of
size
little
box,
boards,
I
and so
believe.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, let's assume people have not seen that video at all. They know nothing about Kingswood. What is this game? Who are you? And what are we trying to accomplish?
There you go. So Kingswood is designed by Henry Audubon, who might recognize his name from a couple other really, really good games. Parks was one he designed, as well as Space Park. So really fantastic designer that really excellent at taking a game that's relatively, the mechanics themselves are easy to learn and easy to pick up, but the game, it just has a lot of fun decisions in it. So he's done that for all of his designs, this one included. And artwork here, really fun fantasy themed art from Tristan Rawson, who's been doing a lot of illustration work, a lot of games coming out recently, Cosmic Colonies. He's got Pebble Beach coming out from Skybound soon. So really wonderful artists, and together they've made Kingswood. So Kingswood is a worker placement kind of rondel, very, very lightweight rondel game. You can see there, you've got the middle is the scoreboard, and around that you have a village. 5 of the village locations will be the same for every game. They're kind of the core functionality of the game, and you'll add in one unique special location to kind of mix things up, and you get a variety of those options in the box. So, but they're put out at random. So every game you're going to have some variability on the layout of the board of the rondel. You'll have some variability. Yes, there's some of the special locations there. But it's really cute art. Like the game parlor has like board game chips and stuff in it, and the bakery is made out of kind of like a little bread house, and like the tavern's a beer keg. So it's it's really fun, very lighthearted fantasy. So it's not too deep from for kids. It's very welcoming. What you're doing? So we are a bunch of guilds, and the king has issued a decree that says, there are too many monsters in the forest. The guild should come together and go out and try to defeat them. So each player represents a guild. So there's a thieves guild. There's a paladin, kind of like uh, guild. There's a bard. All the typical fantasy type characters. So you can see there's like a ranger, thief. You've got kind of a cleric. You've got a wizard. All the stuff you would expect in a fantasy game. And so what you do is on your turn, what makes this really kind of a unique rondel scenario, you can see the locations have 3 meeples on them, 3 little adventurers. Those are communal. Like you don't have any one of those that's yours. So you're all sharing these communal workers. And you've also got the King's Guard. So it's like he's the large sized red one there. So he's on the board as well. There he is. That's the King's Guard. He's a pretty good sized meeple, compared to the adventurers. And what you do, you will choose an adventurer. You will take the action where you start. You will move the adventurer, and then you'll take the action where you land. So every single turn on this rondel, you're going to take 2 different actions. But what makes it very puzzling and challenging is the fact that you can't move to a location that has another adventurer on it, and you can't move to a location that has the King's Guard. So for example, if you were at the tavern and you activated the tavern, you would then move to, let's say you wanted to move to the forest. You could do that for a nice free action. You don't have to pay coins to skip over locations. Now you take the King's Guard and block the tavern. So so you actually put the King's Guard on the tavern. So the next time someone on the next player's turn, the tavern is shut down completely from that turn. So that's this interesting decision of like what you leave and where you go. Where you leave, it makes a very big impact on the player that follows you.
So now, and I think also in a typical rondel style too, that you can pay some coins to go a little bit further than you normally would be able to go.
You do, yeah. So if you skip a location, so for example, where you're at now, the forest at the bottom of the screen, if you wanted to activate and do the forest location ability, and then right now you would have to skip locations because you're basically on both sides of you, there is a meeple blocking that spot. So you would actually have to pay 1 coin per location you skip. So if you went clockwise and skipped over the bakery to then land on the blacksmith, that would cost you 1 coin to skip that bakery location.
And then also worth mentioning too that you can choose whenever the action's to you whether you want to go clockwise or counterclockwise.
That's right. Yeah, it's any direction you want to move, and you literally pick up any adventurer on the set, move them any direction, whatever is most efficient for what you want to do and where you want to go.
Well, let's save the forest for last because it kind of has a very special function. But at least with the buildings that are always part of that, the rest of our rondel, just give us a quick summary of sort of what their function is. Why would you want to choose that as your action?
So at the you can start. Yeah, we'll start there. So the bakery. This is a special location. So this one's not going to be in every single game. This is one of the ones you can add then mix up in the mix. But here it actually gives you don't have a choice on this one. So a lot of times they'll give you a choice of one of 2 things. This one just says, you can get to refresh one of your hearts. So if you've got a heart that's been used, we'll talk about that when we get in the forest. You can refresh one of those, and you can capture a monster from the forest. So you're luring the monster in with your fresh baked, goods, I guess. But you'll get to basically capture a monster and put it with your guild card. You haven't defeated it yet, but you've kind of like reserved it where only you can attack that monster later. So that's one of the special locations. But the rest of the locations that are on the screen here, starting kind of going around clockwise, this is the blacksmith location, I believe. Yep, that's the blacksmith. You can see like a little horseshoe and the anvil on it. So the blacksmith is where you get your swords. And you can see you got 2 options here. One option is you can choose to refresh all of your swords. So if you've got some swords that are exhausted, you can pay a coin, refresh them all, or you can spend a coin to buy a brand new sword and add it to your character. And that comes in active. You don't need to refresh that. That comes in right away. You can use it. So in very similar fashion, there are 2 other primary types of exhaustible resources. There's the blacksmith, there's the academy, which is where you get your spell books, and then there is the tavern, which is where you get your hearts. There it is. There's the tavern. So exact same thing. You can that's just where you buy your fortitude or your courage, I guess, at the bar. but that is the primary place to get and your hearts and refresh them. Now the academy is the exact same thing for spell books. That's the location where you go to acquire more of those. And then there's the market. So the market is the one at the very top in the current layout. When you visit this location, quite simple, you just pick up 3 coins. So that one's nice and easy. So you're going to want to always make sure you've got some coins on hand, because as you can see, pretty much most of the locations in the game, all the core ones at least, require money to operate at them. Some of the special locations don't take coins, but given the fact that coins are needed for all those things, and you have to pay coins if you want to skip a space, you're going to want to have some change in the pocket as you're moving around.
Well, so we've visited some of these town locations. We've got some coins, we've got some swords, we've got maybe spell books, maybe hearts. Now we go to the forest, and what happens?
So when you go to the forest, so there are always going to be 3 different monsters that are face up. So you're going to enter the forest and go look for baddies to fight. You'll notice on the top of the back there to the left, you'll see chapter 1. So there are 2 chapters worth of monsters. The chapter 1 monsters will scale by player count. So whether you're playing a 1-player game, a solo game, or you're playing 2, 3, 4, or 5, the volume and mix of the kind of the smaller, easier monsters will vary. And then once you get into chapter 2, things get a little bit darker in the forest and a little bit bigger creatures come out at that point. And so the chapter 2 monster set is fixed for any player count. But you'll see some monsters that are a little bit tougher that you wouldn't want to encounter when you first start the game. But as you start building up your resources and you're working through some of the smaller monsters, it's almost kind of like you're leveling up your character to get ready to go fight a bigger monster later. But as you said, like the giant there on the left, requires a lot of resources to defeat versus looking at the sprites and the ghost on the right. But if you look at
maybe I was gonna say maybe Nikki could pull one of those chapter 1 monsters under the close-up camera there, so we could kind of see an example of what you would need to defeat the ghost.
Right. So in the purple strip and the banner there, you'll see that they will all have resources, either your spell books, hearts, or swords, or even coins. So there are some toll trolls in there you can basically bribe to defeat. So if you see the resources in there, that is the total number of resources you must exhaust to defeat that monster. So as you're going on the town, you're buying those resources. You're going to say, okay, well, looking at if you're looking at Crom there, which is the brown kind of barbarian guild, right now you've got an active heart, an active sword, and an active book, and $2. So because you have an active heart and an active spell book, you can exhaust those to defeat the ghost, which exhausting just means, and this is what's really clever about the game, when you exhaust them, you don't discard them back to the pot. You actually just turn them over. So they'll go from the color active side into a black and white gray side, which means it's exhausted and now you can't use it until you refresh it. And so if you remember back in the town, all the kind of core locations you can either buy a brand new one that comes in active, or you can choose to refresh all of your exhausted. So if you've got 3 or 4 books that are exhausted, you may want to go spend a coin to then refresh them all and flip them all back over versus buying a single new one. Early on, you don't want to be buying them, brand new, but you'll reach a tipping point where it's basically an optimization puzzle, because you're trying to efficiently get through and score 20 points as fast as possible. So you're constantly battling do I buy a new one, or do I just make them all back refreshed? And at some point you just start refreshing. So you'll go in the forest, fight baddies, go back to the town, refresh everything, and then get back into the forest when you can. But once you defeat the ghost, that's the resources you would need, was that purple banner. At the very bottom, that's the number of victory points. So you can see that the shield in the middle. So that ghost is worth 2 points. Now there's also some flavor text, not really flavor text, it's like ability text. That is the special ability for that particular character. So sometimes when you defeat a monster, you might be able to immediately refresh something, or you might gain a coin, or there's different little things that can happen right when you defeat it. The ghost and then the goblin gang, they're a little bit different. They're part more of a set collection. So it tells you, there's a reminder as, hey, if you have the wraith, at the end of the game, once you tally up all the points, each of these ghosts will be worth an extra point. So the ghosts and the goblin gang and the toll troll each have kind of a boss type of a character. So the ghost has a wraith, the goblin gang has a goblin bully, the toll troll has the troll boss. So if you defeat those characters, at the end of the game, they'll amplify the points of all the minions you have. So you can see in the middle there is the goblin gang, which is basically the same thing as the ghost, but in goblin form. And then on the left is a sun sprite. It's a very cute little sprite that you can pay a coin and exhaust the spell book, and then you get to refresh. I think it's a heart. But yes, there's the goblin bully. So he's a little bit harder to defeat. He's worth a few more points. And there's the wraith. It's a little bit scarier. Those are only going to come out in chapter 2. So once you kind of get down into the deck, you'll see these guys.
Now let's talk a little bit about the guilds, because when we talked last year, you had 5 in your prototype, and how many ended up in the retail version?
think we're at 7, I believe, is the retail. So we've got several were the same. We added one to the game from a based on some stretch goals we unlocked. But I think we added Crom to the retail, which is the barbarian. But then the other 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yes, we went from 6 to 7. That's what we went to in the retail.
Now, is there a unique power to each one of those guilds? I mean, it seems like their starting amounts are different. But yes, indeed, it does look like there is a.
Yeah, so the top is kind of the name of the guild, and then the bottom there, that is the starting resources. So most of the time you're going to start with 3 coins, and then usually 2 different resources. So the cleric comes in with 2 hearts, and so you don't start with any swords or any books. Wizards comes in with books, a mix. The thief comes in with a couple swords, and then a mix there on that. But then you'll notice in the text across the middle, that is that guild special ability. So it's an ongoing ability. It's available throughout the entire game. So as long as, and usually they're kind of location centric for the most part. So for example, the thief, like whenever you go to the market, instead of taking 3 coins, you take 4. Because the thief kind of pockets an extra one. But those are ongoing throughout the whole game. So it adds a little bit of a variety, and it does impact how you play, because you've got some extra abilities there, that are unique just to you. But it does impact how you move around.
Because Nikki's very nicely laid out all the locations there.
Yeah, the artwork there that Tristan put together is really, really cute. I mean, like the potion shop, which looks like on the right, looks like a kind of a potion bottle, and potions are spilling out of the sides of the windows. And but yeah, it's very light, and because your turns are so simple, I mean, it's simple to teach, right? You're just like, hey, you pick a spot, do it, move, do it again, and then your turn's over. It can play quickly once people get the hang of it. Because if you're just moving from one location and buying a resource, and then another one and buying a resource early on, that's a very fast turn. So the time length on it, even at 5 players, it usually doesn't go more than about 30 to 45 minutes.
Which was going to be my next question, so you beat me to it.
There you go. But and it does solo. So solo mode is a little bit different. It still leverages a lot of the core stuff you do in the game, but your objective is a little different. And so in solo mode, the forest at the end of your turn always refills to 3. So there's always 3 monsters out there that you can go visit and attack. You can never draw additional monsters on your turn. So if you have enough resources to beat all 3, then that's all you can do in the forest. Now there are some kind of rules that will bend that with abilities and stuff, but that's kind of that's how the forest works there. In a solo mode, it's almost kind of like a tower defense game, because at the end of every turn, you add 1 monster to the forest. So you're really kind of running this efficiency game where you're moving around the town trying to grab resources, but at the end of every turn, a new monster comes out. If you don't go to the forest and defeat it, a new monster comes out. And if the end of your turn, if there are ever more than 4, you lose. So you're trying to keep the monsters at bay while you're moving around the town. And then as soon as you can go in the deck deep enough to defeat the big dragon, the giant, and the genie, then you win. So it does have a win condition. You're not just playing for points, which some solo versions of games will just so how many points can you earn this time, kind of a thing. We actually do have an objective, that it is a win-loss condition.
Now, if people are now salivating at the thought of playing Kingswood, your release date, I think, was yesterday, yes?
So the retail release is going to be August 19th. So it is the official street date. Backers are just starting to get their copies. Next week is when the European backers should start getting theirs, and then the following week we'll have U.S. backers starting to get theirs. But the official release date is that. There are some limited copies that'll be available in y'all's shop for Gen Con. We're taking pre-orders on our website, so we'll ship those out once all the backers are done and we get to the retail date. So you can still get access to a copy. And obviously ask your local game store to stock it. It's I think all the solicitation went out today for it, so it's available for any game store in the country. Go and put it on their order, and they'll have it for you on the release date.
Now we have about 5-ish minutes left. Is there anything else that you wanted to share of projects coming up for 25th Century Games?
Always. There is we got a lot of fun stuff in the works. So we've got 2 games coming out. You can look them up on our website, 25thcenturygames.com. We have 2 party games coming out. They're both going to be retail releasing probably in September. They're going straight to retail. They weren't kickstarted. One's called Cloud Control. It's a family-friendly shape building game. And then we have another game called Curmudgeon, which is more of an older kind of adult party game. It's a game where you sit around and basically insult each other using cards, and you battle back and forth with insults and retorts. It's the right group. It's a lot of fun, and it's designed by a professional comedian named Grant Lyon and Adam Bain, who also did the artwork for it. Really, really clever little adult party game. And there's no judging and stuff in it, like a Cards Against Humanity and things like that. Like it does have iconography that is a non-judging battle, but it's an insult game that's fun. And then, of course, we also will have coming to retail in October. Backers will get it probably in August. That is Jurassic Parts, which that was on Kickstarter earlier this year, I think March or April. This one's a lot of fun. It's designed by Kevin Lansing, who did Flashpoint Fire Rescue, with art by Andrew Bosley, who wonderful artist as well. So this game is you can still late pledge for it, but this is actually the final production copy. They're all being sent over from China. And this game, get in the window. This game is a super fun, and it's a very, very fun dinosaur puzzle game. And last but not least, one more thing to mention. Starting on Tuesday, we have a Kickstarter launch, which I'm very excited about. So the Tuesday, we're bringing back
any sneak peeks on what?
Yes. What now?
I was gonna say, was that all we got? Was there was a Kickstarter? But
no. I can talk about it. It's out there.
Okay, good.
So Tutankhamun, which is it's new, a new version, but it's actually an older game. It's an old Reiner Knizia title that came out in the early 90s. It was a Spiel nominated game back then. Had a printing in Germany, then had a US printing in the early 2000s, and then now we're bringing it back. We've reimagined the kind of the artwork and table presence, and it's beautifully illustrated by Jackie Davis and Matt Paquette. We've got some modified gameplay. So if you've never played the original, it's a great time to check it out. It's a wonderful old classic Reiner Knizia game. And if you have the original or played it, we've got some new stuff that makes it a little bit different, and those new stuff to check out. So that is Tuesday. So check it out.
Excellent. Well, Chad, once again, because maybe we should just make this an annual, conversation and just make it the Beth and Chad show.
I'm hoping we'll be physically at conventions next year, and we can just do this kind of in the off season, and then we'll do real conventions.
That's right.
In person again.
Well, I thank you again for giving us a now final tour. It was fascinating to see the earlier versions of Kingswood, and now the full retail version. So if you guys want to check that out, we'll be available for retail next month. This is Chad Elkins from 20th Century Games, and thank you again.
Thank you so much. A lot of fun. Good to see you.